Cool. So this is going to be the Mattix Podcast. We're complete beginners at this. I've always thought that it's a pretty cool idea to have some sort of podcast where we can talk primarily to the students, and then whatever it turns into, it turns into. But the idea is going to be obviously highly focused on jiu-jitsu. And so today's going to be first episode, and probably talk a little bit about my history with jiu-jitsu, Justin's history with jiu-jitsu, and just kind of the development of Mattix pretty much. So, cool. I start?
Yeah.
So pretty much, my name is Ricky Semiglia. I was 17 when I started training jiu-jitsu. I'm a Pedro Sauer black belt. I started under a good friend of mine, still a great friend of mine, Ismael Saturno. He pretty much kind of laid it out where I can kind of start teaching very early in my career, and I think that made a huge influence on the direction that I took jiu-jitsu. You know, I started in, I don't know if I mentioned this already, I started in 2009. Immediately, I was working one job. I was working at Boston Market. I didn't like it, so I left to work with the kids, and I've never really had another job ever since. And 2 years into my jiu-jitsu career, 2 years or so, I started teaching at FIU. There's where I started teaching adults actually. And, you know, I was very new to teaching. I didn't open the club with expectations to teach. It was really just a place to train with my friends. And that was pretty cool, because then it allowed me to kind of start sharing whatever I knew. And for anybody who teaches, they will tell you that teaching really helps you refine what you understand in jiu-jitsu. And I've always had this thing that if I'm going to be giving information, I really want to make sure that it's true. So I think it was just a nice combination of things. It was actually there where I met you, and I think we've already figured that out. 2014, right?
I believe so.
Here we go again.
I think it was 2014, end of 2014, August, September, October, maybe October or something like that. I don't know. I remember I trained for 3 months with you, and then I had my first competition, and that was like towards the end of the year or whatever it was. But I believe it was the end of 2014.
At 2014, the 3 months, and then man, I don't know how I'm forgetting this, but then I went to Brazil. So you started, and I was at the club.
Yeah.
And then I went, and I did it.
Yeah, when I started it was you. You were at the club. I trained with you, Juan, and like the other people that were there at the time. And then I remember you had left. I guess it was the next semester to go to Brazil.
Was that when I went just for a month? Or
when you went for just for a month, was that before you went for a long time?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I went like 2 times. I don't know.
You were always in Brazil. I don't know.
As long as I know that when you started, I was there. Like
yeah, you were there when I started, and then I remember you left for a while, and then you had someone take over the class. I think his name was Tao, and then he taught for a while, and then you came back, and I was still.
My bad. I had to fix something there. So Tall was teaching, then I came back. So that was the one that I was gone for a whole semester.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I guess continuing the story, you know, I ended up doing an internship in Brazil, which I thought was cool. It was a way to graduate the bachelor's that I was pursuing. I needed to do an internship, and I chose to do it in Brazil. It was a very eye-opening experience, I think, because they were very blunt in a very nice way to kind of tell me that, you know, I had a lot of work to do. And it was confusing because, you know, one thing that's weird about my history in jiu-jitsu is that I didn't really have a blue belt career. So, you know, I was doing martial arts in a place that, you know, Ismail, the guy who I started with, you know, I'm talking with you, but you know this, but I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
But
shout out to Sensei Ismail.
Yeah, Sensei Ismail. Like, so when I started, it was kind of like a mixed martial art program. He was like really into martial arts since he was a young kid, and then he got introduced to jiu-jitsu. It's actually a funny story. And then once he started doing jiu-jitsu over here is when I started. And I think that, you know, it was just highly focused on jiu-jitsu. They were trying to learn jiu-jitsu a lot. But it was interesting because I started when he was just starting to learn as well. And we did a lot together in the beginning, and then I went off to college, and then I was training at other places in Miami, wherever I could. I also took a job in Key Biscayne with a school that was more focused on their form of martial arts, but I very quickly found out that it was jiu-jitsu that I wanted to pursue. Like, it was jiu-jitsu that I wanted to do all the time. Jiu-jitsu is what I was trying to get my friends into. Like, this is awesome, you should do it. And but yeah, so jiu-jitsu. There are other martial arts like judo and wrestling and things like that I really enjoy, but my main art will be jiu-jitsu. But yeah, so I went to Brazil, and then when I came back after being told I wasn't that good, I went off track. So I didn't have a blue belt career because of that mixed martial arts system that was going on here. So I was getting ranked under that, but I didn't really know anything because I had never done martial arts in the past. So I didn't know if the ranking of, it sounds silly, but the ranking of if I got ranked under their system, am I that belt under the jiu-jitsu? So I was competing as a purple belt under what used to be called the V-Pro-K system here, Victory Professional Karate. And I wore a purple belt at a local Naga over here, and I competed at it. And it was funny because I actually ended up winning, not because I was great, but probably because the guy wasn't so good. But I won, and being that I don't even think it was in the gi, but being the fact that I signed up as a purple belt, I just couldn't go back. Put a blue belt on again. A lot of people would be like sandbagging this and that. So I never really wore a blue belt. I didn't really wear it. I officially got it under Pedro Sauer years later. I think like 4.5 or years into my jiu-jitsu or something like that. And so I was just rocking that purple belt for a long time. And so yeah, in Brazil was when I was kind of just figuring out things, and they were like, hey, I don't know how you're a purple belt, you got to really catch up with stuff. And I remember coming back and thinking, okay, I really need to take this seriously and get it together. And I wanted to do this for kind of like a living. I was about to graduate college, and I didn't want to pursue anything in the degree I was studying for. And I studied recreation sport management, but I couldn't tell you anything I learned about it. And then I asked Sensei Ismail, if I can kind of just run a jiu-jitsu program here, an adult program. And that is really the beginning of Mattix. And it was cool because you trained a lot at FIU. It was very interesting how you trained because you were working so many jobs. I always talk about it, but you worked so many jobs, and there would be days that you wouldn't sleep. I don't know if it was ever more.
I think at the time I was working... I don't remember. Probably I was working at the hospital. I was working at the group home. I was going to school, and I remember I would get off of work at like 6:45 a.m. and then go straight to the school. And then I think I would go to jiu-jitsu or have a class and then go to jiu-jitsu. And then after that, I remember I had to go straight to... I remember I'd get out of jiu-jitsu, go take a shower in the bathroom, and then run straight to class. But yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, I remember you used to come riding in your skateboard.
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny, and like I knew that you hadn't slept. I think sometimes it would be like 3 days, and which is crazy. I can't even think about that, but that was like a normal thing. And you would come in and you wouldn't even look tired, and you would do the class. You wouldn't look like you were out of focus. You really enjoyed it. You were there to learn, but you did it, which makes it harder on other people, because when they come with like kind of excuses like, oh, I got this, I got that, it's like, come on. Like if you want to train jiu-jitsu and you want to make it happen, you can make it happen. But yeah, so then you continued, because you lived in Pembroke Pines, which actually worked in our favor.
After I graduated, I was able to continue here.
Yeah, which was really cool. And then it's just really interesting because you just, when I started at FIU and you came into FIU 2014, that's 5 years into my jiu-jitsu. 5 years is a long time, but the way that I did it was a very slow process. Like, if 5 years what I think that the people now could accomplish in 5 years, like it took me a long time because there wasn't much guidance in that regard. As far, not that I didn't have guidance, but just like structure in my jiu-jitsu. But it was cool because you were like a part of me still figuring myself out in jiu-jitsu, and then you kind of saw Mattix grow. You helped Mattix grow, and it is a thing that is going to be like impossible to say anymore. It's like from beginning to end, not end because there's not going to be an end, but you know, all the way to your black belt has been 100% through what we've developed here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I find that really cool. No better person to do this first episode with. My man Justin.
Appreciate it.
So, you know, let me try to see if I can continue that story. You know, so we left. We didn't leave. I continued teaching. When you graduated, you started coming here. You stopped going to FIU, right?
Yeah. Stop going to FIU.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you wanted me to give my background and how I got into it, or.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, when I was in high school, I did wrestling. I did a little bit of wrestling. My school didn't have much of anything like sports and stuff like that, but we had wrestling. I did a little bit of wrestling for like 2 years, and then senior year I wanted to do it, but we lost our coach, and then I tried to wrestle for like another school, but it didn't work out. So I did like 2 years of wrestling under a coach. He was a cool guy, but he was really young. He had just graduated high school too.
Wow.
So I did that. It was interesting. And then also judo in high school. We had one of my teachers, she was an Olympian in judo, and she just decided to start a judo club. And then me and my best friend Anthony, we did it. Anthony, you know Anthony.
Yeah.
And
shout out to Anthony.
shout out to Anthony. And you need to get in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from there, that was like my basis for like, I had like a little grappling basis from that. I didn't do like a lot of it. And then also I trained at, like my instructor for judo would take me to Budokan too, which is interesting because now we have Carlos and his family teaches at Budokan. So it's kind of like interesting how everything like comes together. But yeah, after that I got to college, and then I wanted to do some sort of, you know, martial arts training. I was looking for a wrestling club. Didn't really find one. There was a judo club that I did for a little bit, but it didn't last. And then I remember there was an MMA club, which I went into, but I was kind of about it. I didn't really. It was once a week. They weren't very technical when I was there. Like they would teach certain things, and it was kind of more so trying to get you to go to their actual school, which was somewhere that wasn't close to me. So I wasn't really interested in going to it like that. And then I remember one day I was walking through GC. And I saw
GC's FIU.
Yeah, at FIU, GC, there's like a main area where everybody just walks through. So they have a little depressed area there, the pit. And the jiu-jitsu club was there in the pit. And I remember I walked up and I was interested, and, you know, I tried to talk to Ricky, but, you know, at the time, I don't know, Ricky's mind might have been somewhere else, but, like, he kind of gave me the cold, or it felt like he kind of gave me the cold shoulder at the time. But I was kind of like, okay, cool, whatever. I found out the schedule, and it didn't work for me that semester. And I don't think it was until like...
I need to defend myself.
No, go ahead.
It's one of those situations where I have no reason to believe that he's making that up, because Justin doesn't do that. But it also goes so against my character, especially, you know, this GC, this depressed. It's like it was like a hole on the ground, and the whole point of it was marketing. So like if I see somebody, Justin, he's fit and like he's trying to train, those would be you would be like the main person I'm trying to get to train, you know. So it's very, I guess I was busy.
Might have been hyper focused. When you get in your zone, you're like in the zone, and everything's kind of like, and then you come back to it. But I didn't stay like I didn't go in and do anything there. I think I was on my way to class, so I kind of just like stopped by and kept it moving. But then it was like, I don't remember how many semesters later it was that I joined, but that was like prior to me joining. And I think in between that time is when I tried out like the judo thing and the MMA thing. And then, you know, whatever. The year came where my schedule allowed me to go to the club. And then that's when I started going to the jiu-jitsu club at FIU. I think it was like twice a week or 3 times a week. I think it was, I don't remember what days, but I remember it was 2 days and then like Friday. And yeah, that's when we got into it.
To think about if you would have been not into the way I acted, and you would have never joined, and then all of this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, nah.
It's crazy because, you know, if you're listening to it, it's just kind of like you're seeing it for the first time. If you know who we are, you know who we are. But, man, 10 years already. First of all, 10 years is a long time. But it's just cool. 10 years of very productive friendship. And then, you know, with similar goals and wanting
inside
to
and
grow
outside
this.
of jiu-jitsu.
Inside and outside. I think that's, like, it's funny because I want to go there, but I feel like that would be a whole other podcast in itself. But absolutely inside and outside. And to a degree, you know, I can't really say I would always have that with every student of mine. I would like to, but at the end of the day, I teach jiu-jitsu. But sometimes you get close to people and then you kind of just talk about life. And then it's funny because the patterns that help you succeed in jiu-jitsu also help you succeed in life. But, you know, that's another podcast. It'll be another podcast, I think. Or maybe we'll talk about it a little bit today, eventually. But... So then you came to the club. I think that ties everything together, then, right?
Yeah.
Let me see before we move on from this. So then, 2015, I went, which is 6 years into my jiu-jitsu. I went to Brazil in the summer, or January till the summer. I think maybe the end of summer. No, maybe beginning of summer. And then the team started. We didn't call it Mattix. I found that out later. Somebody told me, because I even have it in a brochure that it started 2015. Somebody's like, Mattix didn't become a thing till 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it wasn't until later on.
I mean, Mattix was a thing. It just didn't have a name. It was the same group, same idea of growing a team. And then we kind of named it Mattix, which stands for Mat Addicts. And then we put it together, and now it's Mattix. And then, it grew. I became a business owner because it was Ismail's school. And then Ismail moved to Atlanta with his family. He currently has a school now there, which is awesome. And in 2020, we made an agreement that he moved to Atlanta. So we moved his LLC out, moved mine in. And then it was funny because it was February 1st, 2020, which was a pandemic time. I remember they were talking about it on the news. I'm like, this looks serious. And sure enough, March 17th, I believe it was funny because we had a test the day before they told us to shut down, I think. And I remember a lot of people were freaking out and being like, Ricky, I don't think you should follow through with this. And I was like, look, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to not do it. And none of us knew what was going to go down. Like it was a weird time for everybody. And then so we shut down for a little bit. Right as I became business owner, we lost a lot of clientele. And then when we came back, it was honestly like a humongous reset, which I find, like, you know, it's so funny how the world works, but it was a necessary reset. Because at the end of the day, there was a lot of clients here who I think were happy, you know, that with the relationship they had with Ismail. And I was definitely a little different. We have a lot of similar qualities, but we have a lot of qualities that are different. And at the end of the day, sometimes when you sign up for martial arts, you're loyal to the person who's been there from the beginning. So we kind of had to get rid of the people who didn't want to be here and then start growing a new kind of group. And it was exactly what happened. And so like it was not too long before I think I really started increasing the numbers here more than what I had it prior to.
And it's cool because
pandemic.
They filter themselves out. Like the people that want to be here, and the people that are they filter themselves out.
And it's funny because when you're first new, especially when you become a business owner, I mean I had the privilege of being able to run Ismail's business while he was gone, but at the end of the day, when it's yours, and the risk, and you're worried, and you got to do this, and there's so much to learn. But I would give anybody who's trying to start a jiu-jitsu school advice, if I were to give them advice, it would be like, you have to focus on what it is that filters out the people you don't want there. Like it's, in other words, developing your culture in the academy. Because when you're trying to make numbers happen, and it's just like, man, anybody, like leads. It's just like a lot of people with different personalities, and maybe they don't vibe with your guys or whatever. And at the end of the day, this place will be open for anybody who wants to come train here, but you really do have to have a certain kind of personality to be part of a team. And you know, there's sometimes people come in with weird attitudes and things like that, and I think that in itself can be another podcast. But the culture is so important, so that like somebody like you, for example, like a lot of times people, and I'm flattered when they say it. I truly am. Like, Ricky, you created this, but at the end of the day, it was the creation of Mattix, but it's everybody's kind of personality that creates the culture. It's not just mine. And then it grows and it becomes kind of like a team.
Yeah, I think the thing is that you're the one that sets the tone. Like, it's kind of like you set the tone, and then those people who like it and like the way that you teach, like your mentality and how you run it, those people are also going to either conform, or I don't even want to say conform, but like you resonate with them, and so they enjoy that type of culture, and then they exhibit that, and then because of that, it's kind of like that's what grows. But the thing is, you're the one that always sets the tone, and I think the fact that you were more for, I guess, quality over quantity in regards to like not just like trying to get money, but like who am I actually having in here? That's what builds that culture. Because if you switch that up, even if you had people that enjoyed the culture you had, and you were like, oh, I don't care who's in here, I just want numbers, I just want money, it would have destroyed itself, and you would have filtered yourself out of or you would have filtered the culture out of what it is that everyone loves so much about Mattix.
And there were so many choices too that just almost felt like this is like, I don't know. I don't know what word to give it. I don't know if destined is the word to give it, but it's being guided into this direction. I'm just following it. That's the way I look at it. That's how I look at my skills in jiu-jitsu. That's how I look at the structure of my life. I really believe in God, obviously, and I look at it like that. Another podcast, I would say. But it's just this idea of moving towards what you believe to be the right choice. And, when you're doing that, sometimes you get presented with kind of opportunities that you're just like, man, that's good, but probably better not to take it. But it's cool because then you meet people. Like for example, how I met you. Say that something would have happened into my jiu-jitsu prior to FIU, and then somebody gave me this opportunity, like, Ricky, I see a lot of potential in you, come here, blah blah, you can't teach at FIU. And it's just like, how different would my life have been? And things like that have happened, actually. And then later on in life, it kind of becomes like, are you gonna have your own team or represent a different flag? And it's like, that world is enticing, but I kind of want to have just Mattix because for whatever reason. And then later on, you end up meeting people that you're like, oh, I'm glad I did this route because I met this person.
Yeah.
I didn't meet my wife, Stephanie, because of Mattix. I did meet her, and she really helped me a lot with Mattix, I would say. But I have met a lot of people here that through these people, I've met other people who have become my best friends and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, just stick to the course. If you keep heading in this direction, these are the examples that, or the proof that you're on the right track. I hope I made sense there. I'm not going to be editing anything, but I hope I made sense. I know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of continuing towards what you believe to be right. And then I think that's what I feel like maybe some people here see. And it's just like, I'm not gambling on anything. I'm not expecting anything. I'm just kind of just doing my thing. I love training. I love being here. I love smiling. And not just that, but like learning real deep technique. I like to have a platform where people can listen to me honestly, because sometimes if I don't have that kind of like, hey, everybody listen to me, I can go off in tangent type thing. But like being able to teach them and show them what I learned and seeing them interested in it, and then them conveying it to other people. And then I think that, I don't know, I guess I'm talking about the culture here.
Yeah.
But pretty much, now we've gotten to this point. Now you're teaching the fundamentals program, which is one of the bigger programs here. Because, of course, the new people, it created a separation because, one of the trials that I was learning as kind of running the school was that a lot of people felt almost overwhelmed because, in the beginning when you're first starting, and I was young when I was first starting, I'm kind of into competition and I'm doing all of this, and so the people who were kind of keeping up with me are those that were a lot more competitive. So when I would get certain people who would join, they kind of liked the vibe, but it almost felt like it was a little too fast paced, or maybe they felt like there were burdens for other people and stuff like that. And I kept getting that kind of feedback, and I'm like, man, that sucks, because I don't want them to feel like they can't grow. I feel like if they stick to it, they'll get it. But
yeah.
I think the fundamental class really provided that environment for people who kind of want to take it at their pace before they're ready to hang with the more advanced guys. which seems to be an obvious thing in business. I'm not the only business obviously that does that, but then you were able to start teaching that. How long has it been?
It was like 3. Is it 2 years or 3 years?
I couldn't tell
I don't
you.
even know. I'm not good with time. I've never been good with time and dates and stuff like that. Like I think it's the same thing. I just go. Keep going. Like even in the process of getting my belts, I can't tell you the date that I got each belt, or like, because it wasn't anything I ever really paid attention to when it comes to that. Like if I never got a belt and I was white belt and I'm still a white belt now, but I have the skill sets, the experiences, whatever, like it wouldn't bother me. It'd be like that's the route I'm taking. And it's just, that is what it is. But yeah, the fundamentals class is amazing. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to teach the fundamentals class, and I appreciate the students that I have in the class. All the students in my class are also really amazing. And in teaching the fundamentals, I feel like it also helps me in my own growth in jiu-jitsu and just overall. But definitely there's a lot of stuff that I do when I compete or roll, or just in general when I train, that I do it because it naturally comes to me, and I have an understanding of the fundamental concepts and the ability to apply it while moving. But then being able to teach it to other people is definitely a skill that you have to learn, I guess. And for me, it was really cool learning that skill while going through teaching. Like at first, it's kind of like, all right, let me make sure everything's perfect, and then writing things down, trying to work things out. But like it's like right now, it's at a point where it's kind of like I can just flow through what I'm teaching, and people ask questions. I like when people ask questions. I like answering them. If there's a question I can't answer, which most of them I feel like I can, then we'll explore it and figure out the answers to those things, and definitely helps with my growth and the growth of the students there. And I think it's cool that I also have like some students that are more advanced belts that still come into the fundamentals class, because it shows that, like, at least for me, the way that I'm teaching is something that is beneficial not to just people that are new, but to people that have been in it as well.
I think that's something that makes Mattix like really unique, because we can throw words around like fundamentals and concepts and stuff like that, and it's kind of like the defining of it is what makes it kind of like, oh, I understand, I can do this. But going back to that kind of like figuring, it kind of sounded like it's like figuring yourself out as you're teaching, like kind of like how it is that you teach and answer questions, and how you've grown as a practitioner because of teaching and stuff like that. It's interesting because like when I started, I gotta give credit towards teaching, like for a majority of my skill set. I think I'm pretty good. And I think that teaching is a big reason why I kind of understand what I understand. And like I had a lot of freedom. It could be because like with the instructor at the time, Ismail, he was just starting jiu-jitsu off as well, kind of. So we were kind of figuring it out together. So like there was just kind of like this freedom of uncovering it, and not kind of being told like this is the way, that is the way. And I really like it kind of created how I am. But I kind of almost feel like it's important to have that kind of structure. And I think it's pretty cool with you because you kind of almost went through the same thing. Like I was figuring out the structure of Mattix. I think today I'm very confident with, like, if somebody was to ask me like what makes Mattix different from other schools, I can explain it. I can structurally explain it. And I think that you were part of me trying to understand that, and the developing process of it, the kind of being able to like, here, let me see if I can explain it in this way if you understand type thing. Because right in this school we call it concepts of connection, timing, and weight distribution, which I will be putting out videos. I'm going to be doing a lot of videos and talking about, but it's kind of like the language of Mattix. And the thing is that your jiu-jitsu, like if somebody's to roll with you, which is interesting because somebody's to roll with you, it feels different than if you're rolling with me. Like you feel like a different style. Yeah. I think the more current, modern white belts, they feel a lot more like me because the structure's already solidified. Whereas with you, the structure wasn't. We were figuring it out. So you've developed your own self along the way through consistency, which I think without anything else, consistency you will figure it out. If you don't quit and you continue moving forward and people around you actually care about you, you will figure it out. But the concepts really give you that structure in the beginning to make sure you don't really go astray and make those mistakes that we kind of made and had to make, that you don't have to make now because we made them, type thing, that kind of idea. But the concepts is our language now. And now when it comes to the growth of Mattix, which we've been talking a lot about growth.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But we've been talking a lot about growth, and we know we're going to be expanding in a way. I don't like saying we know, but I feel like we know. We're going to be yeah. We're going to be expanding, but when you expand, there has to be this kind of structure of Mattix, and I'm very confident that these next years of the lease that we're in right now, we're going to be building on that. It's like mentoring mentors in a way, but we need to be speaking the same language. Because something that I noticed, and I'm sorry if I went off on tangent, but something that I noticed is that when the leaders of the mat are speaking in the same language, quote unquote, it makes it so much easier for the new students, and not even the new students, but the ones that are just not taking the position of leaders, to kind of grasp and understand what it is that we're doing here. For sure. And it's just kind of like an understanding of jiu-jitsu, whereas say if I have to travel, if I have to travel and it's you behind here and Nick and Yaidel or whoever's left behind, that you guys are covering the same material. And it's I'm going to be here as much as I can. I always will be. I love this place. But at the end of the day, it can't just be me who's able to guide the students. And that's kind of a new phase that I'm moving into. And I think that the concepts and the structure and kind of the mission, the culture that we have here, this idea of fundamentals is kind of key to everything. We need to have strong basics. If somebody comes in and as a student with a more advanced belt, I'm not saying anything about their instructor from anywhere else, but you have to kind of understand how we do things here. Otherwise, you're not going to mesh with the group. Yeah. It won't be a comfortable process. So it's just kind of breaking you down to kind of teach you. If you want to be a part of this team, obviously you want to understand the way we do things here. So it's just kind of we can't let somebody slip and just kind of do it their own way type of thing. But then there is that freedom of kind of adding your own personality to it, as long as we understand the concepts.
Yeah, which I think is cool, because I feel even when we get people that come here from other schools, they'll come here, they'll experience the way that we roll, the way that we apply those concepts, and even though they might have had teaching that's different or the different style or whatever the case is, I think once they are okay, look, this is how Ricky teaches or Justin teaches or whoever, and this is how they roll, they're willing to kind of put the things that they've learned on the side to learn it in the way that you teach it.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense.
Yeah.
And their minds are blown every time it's you break certain things down. It's you're already really good, or hopefully, or whatever. They come in with whatever skill set they have, and then it's once you apply the concepts to the skill set that they have, it kind of opens this new pathway within their minds. Yeah. And then it's you only get better. Yeah. And they're willing to conform to that rather than trying to force their previous knowledge.
And I'm really glad that I started young. I started really young teaching, because it allowed me a lot of years to kind of just screw up and make mistakes and learn and kind of become the best version of an instructor that I can. But right now I've been doing this for almost half my life already, which is crazy to say. But I am so confident in how I explain jiu-jitsu that I think that the people, and I'm sure I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure, of course, that you see that I believe in what it is that I'm teaching. I absolutely believe it. And not only do I believe it, but I put it into practice. I try and I go out, I go to open mats, I try and compete. I'm always bringing people here for open mats and putting everything to the test. But regardless of competition, anything like that, just the understanding of technique and its application, I'm very confident in. And that kind of confidence, if you see that somebody believes it, it's easier to listen to them. And I feel that's why people here listen to me, and then they'll be able to convey I want to explain it how he does, to the point where you won't need me to explain anymore. You're understanding for yourself, because we're speaking this just same concept, this core connection, timing, weight distribution. And it's at the end of the day, I think one of the things with getting people to stay here is consistency. I always try to talk about this 50-50% idea that like even when you're ukeing, which is a thing, ukeing is like when you have the technique done on you, but it's impossible to do a technique unless the other person is doing half of the technique, which is hard for people to understand, because then if they're very new to jiu-jitsu, their immediate thought would be like, well, in a real match he probably wouldn't do this, and this is like, yes, he probably wouldn't, but we need to practice almost every single reaction in a way. So I'm trying to get you to respond to feel rather than memorization of technique and stuff like that. And where was I going with this? Where was I going with this? I was going somewhere good.
I mean, I could pick up from it where.
But I had something really important to say there. What did I say before I said that?
You were talking about having an understanding of the concepts, everyone speaking the same language.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure it'll come back to me.
Confidence in teaching. I mean, I know for me at least, like when I go to different open mats and stuff like that, and I roll with different people, a lot of times after the match, they'll ask me questions or be like, oh, like I was trying to do this move on you and it wasn't working, or I was trying to do this or trying to do that, and then I'll be like, well, you know, show me what it is. And sometimes it's things that I don't even do, like it might not be part of my style, but when they try and do the move, I'm able to, you know, pinpoint and pick out like, all right, I can tell the move is not working because you're trying to force this, and you need to distribute my weight this way or that way, or, you know, your connections are not here or there, and it's like I am able to do that. I remember what I was saying. I know.
My bad. I was paying attention, but I was like, what just happened?
I know what I was saying. Made it come back. Go ahead.
But the whole uke thing, this idea of 50-50, which I honestly, well, I'll save it for once we promote you. There's a lot to say there, but the idea of being an uke, and you have to give that 50%. Otherwise, you can't fully grasp onto the concepts. You can't grasp onto the common core that I'm trying to explain to people. Like, if you tried to understand jiu-jitsu through a dummy, I would love to hear your argument for it. I'm never going to be close-minded and say that you can't, but I don't think it's possible. You need somebody else, because you need them to give you certain responses to react to. I think that's what jiu-jitsu is, how we respond to something immediately. And the thing about teaching, because I was talking about kind of what keeps the students engaged, the thing about teaching is that at the end of the day, I can only offer so much. I can really offer the environment, the culture, my knowledge, and things like that, but I need you to put in the effort of wanting to do this yourself. Otherwise, there's no way. I can teach you. If you don't have the desire to get better in jiu-jitsu, what I offer is obsolete. I can't do anything for you. So like, and there are some people in those situations where it's like, I see this a lot with kids, but I see it with adults. I don't see it a lot, but I'm saying I've seen it more, I guess, so with kids. But sometimes the kids, their parents are more into it than they are. And when they don't have that desire, you will look at it and be like, why is he not paying attention, this and that? But it has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that he doesn't want to be here to receive the information. He doesn't want to receive the information. So I put a lot of focus on what it is that makes a child from 5 to 9, or from 9 to 15, or an adult from 15 up, even though 15 is not an adult, but whatever age that will make you be like, I can see myself prioritizing this in my schedule. I can see myself doing this not for just 1 year or 2 years. I can see myself doing this for a long time. And I think that what we have going on here with the concepts makes it really easy to do that, because it's just kind of like, nobody likes to do something as complicated as jiu-jitsu. I don't want to hear that jiu-jitsu is not challenging or complicated. I think it becomes more simple the more you understand it, but in the beginning it's challenging. But nobody likes to do something when they don't feel like they're progressing. So how can I make it seem as if you're progressing, but not only progressing, but having an awesome time? The camaraderie, you're surrounding yourself with amazing people, you're learning, you're literally just training your mind to figure out solutions. So for 1 hour, regardless of all the shit that's going on in your life or whatever, you're dedicated to like figuring out solutions to problems instead of just getting frustrated and complaining and blah 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 blah. So it's just kind of such a healthy part of someone's life, and I think I guess I'm just adding on to the niche, I guess, that we have here at Mattix. And I honestly think I've done that from the beginning, from its conception. I mean, there's been a lot of me wanting to compete and things like that at the end of the day, but I always wanted to provide an environment where people just loved being here.
Yeah.
And I think that we've succeeded with that. And you know, I do get a lot of comments too, so it's not just something that I'm guessing, and it's like feedback from people. It's just like, yo, there's good vibes here, and it's just like, yeah, good, I want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
And it's not me who's doing it, it's everybody who's here, and the people who are not willing to contribute to that kind of like vibe, they just don't stick around.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's, but I think that's like anything in life, you know. What better way than through jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. The environment is, it's cool because even like when I run into people that may have been here and they stopped training or they went somewhere else or whatever, like they always have the same thing. Like, no, I don't think I've ever met anyone that I talked to that's been here that left for whatever reason, they moved or whatever, that has found another place like this or enjoyed, you know, doing anything like this. Even if they're not training anymore at all, they always like have positive things to say about Mattix, which is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I'm always happy to be somebody's at least like experience of jiu-jitsu, because I feel like I can make them be like, even if they didn't continue, there's just like, that was cool. And it almost bothers me, and I'll never really talk about any other like school or anything, but like it bothers me sometimes when people come and they're like, yeah, I did do a class, but like they immediately started like messing me up, and it's just like I didn't know what to do, and it kind of felt like everybody's kind of ego and everybody was out to get you and stuff like that. It's like, man, that sucks, because jiu-jitsu is so freaking cool that's your first impression of jiu-jitsu. And it's just like, you know, it's funny because for me personally, I was the type that if I tried joining a school and everybody tried going hard and beating me up and stuff like that, I actually probably would have liked it.
Yeah.
You know, I would have enjoyed it. I would have been like, cool, I'll stick around. But there's just a lot of people who are not like that, and those people can contribute to the group heavy. You know, there's some people who are just lazy and just kind of trying to figure something out, and like you have this low energy. That's like another side of a spectrum. But when people come here with the desire to add something to their schedule and make their lives better, and they like jiu-jitsu, it's like they contribute to that kind of environment here. But you know, all about vibes, I guess. What else should we cover? So we talked about the development of Mattix, kind of. There's definitely a lot to talk about.
I feel like in future podcasts or like having other people on and questions being asked, we'll always get deeper into different subjects.
Yeah, because I think in my head, like, I don't want to miss something, but it's like, man, we'll probably end up talking about it anyway.
Everything's going to get talked about one day or another.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast of myself, and I was like, man, I did that such a long time. I actually did it during 2020. During the lockdown. So I had just become a business owner, and I was like, let me listen to myself to see the things I was saying. I was just like, oh, I've been pretty consistent with the way I explain how things have been here, because it's from what I remember. But it's pretty cool. That was Anthony Arias. He also used to train here, and now his brother trains here.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. You know, Pedro Sauer, I guess the idea of like the involvement with that, you know, we've been I love Pedro Sauer. Like, he is somebody who I'm very proud to represent, you know, because you see sometimes, unfortunately, that, you know, some people get their black belts under others and they have to represent them, and then it can get messy. But Pedro Sauer is somebody I never have to worry about with that. And I've always appreciated, like, I'm pretty sure he does this with everybody who he sees, but he definitely gave me the impression that he believed in, like, whatever I was doing. You know, like, he saw that I really liked it. I would go to the seminars, and in the beginning I was kind of more like on the, I want to prove that I can like be good skillfully and stuff like that, and he was just always kind of like, oh, that man, he's a nightmare, like, you know, and that used to make me feel like, oh, he called me a nightmare. Yeah. But it was just more like kind of like just kind of like keep on doing. I remember one time we had a seminar here, and he signed a book, and it was just like, keep sharing jiu-jitsu, and that's all he wants you to do. Just he wants to spread jiu-jitsu. And you know, we're the only school, if I'm not mistaken, in the southeastern region. A lot of their schools on the East Coast. There's some they're all over the place, really. But it's been kind of unique in that sense. You know, I didn't have somebody as an instructor like my whole career. I never had somebody continuing like to like be the hammer, I guess, and to kind of do that. I've been guided just through kind of like seminars and talks, and you know, there have been people who really have been influences in my life. Gorginho from Start Jiu-Jitsu, Rafael, they call him Gorginho. He opened his doors to me, and I trained at the open mats that they have, black belt open mats in the morning. I've been training with him almost a decade already, which is nuts. It's a long time. I developed a good friendship with him, so he's been very open door. So I've been able to train with a lot of high level people there. I remember when I was working at Key Biscayne at the karate school. I didn't want to really do karate, but I wanted to do jiu-jitsu, and it was interesting to like just skip details, but I was training jiu-jitsu kind of on the side at some place in Miami called WMB with JB, and that guy was so smart at jiu-jitsu and just eloquent, just really, I think, impacted me a lot in how I look at technique, because when he can explain something so well, it like encouraged me to be like, I think I can do that too. So he was impactful for sure in my career. It wasn't a lot that I trained over there, though, I will say that, but even the little that I was there, he made a big impact. When I went to Brazil, I trained under a school called Caipirinha. It's owned by Aldo Januario, I think it was his last name, and but I trained under his brother Fabio. And Fabio was another one of those minds that was just so brilliant. And it was interesting because he didn't train with his students. We were over there, and over there in Brazil, at least that school had a bunch of black belts. It was like every day it was like 12 to 18 black belts, and the first match is them just picking out who they want to roll with. And I was the American, so of course they just wanted to beat me up.
Beat that guy up.
And you know, Fabio was just a huge impact for sure in my jiu-jitsu. He actually gave me my purple belt, which may cause some confusion with everything, which was a silly thing for me to do, I think, looking at it back. I really admired him, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, if I'm going to come back to America, and if I started with Pedro Sauer, it was a good idea to continue with Pedro Sauer. And I think that was also a very impactful moment with him, because Pedro was not at all like, oh, how dare you get promoted under somebody else or anything like that. I remember Ismail spoke to him, and he was like, no, he's like, you know, tell Ricky to keep training. I'd be happy to give him the brown belt. And, you know, after that happened, I was like, okay, I got to stick to Pedro Sauer unless something happens, you know, because, you know, the association, I think, went through its trials, and you know, it's all kind of not knowing where that's going to go. But as long as I can represent Pedro and I can stay under Pedro and he can promote me and I can go and visit him in seminars and be there, I'm fine with that. That's cool. But now I'm really happy with the associations going and being ran by awesome people. Yeah. Right now, 2024, just want to make sure, is being run by some cool people. Even the other day, Rylan Lazares, who's Max Holloway's coach, not that I don't know his involvement as far as running the association or not, but he is a big part of the association. And the guy made us stop here in Miami, and he's like, hey, I'm with my family and kids, can we stop by? And he came and he did every single kids class with his kids, and he did the fundamentals class and he did the advanced class, and then after he rolled, and he was the last one on the mat rolling, and it was just like, that's the type of stuff that is just like, I'm receiving now and I'm grateful, but that's what makes me feel really part of that, like, unity of that association. But regardless of whether that exists or not, just having Pedro Sauer as the one above, like as far as like lineage and stuff like that, is pretty cool. And who knows what that would turn into. But I'm really happy to see the people running it, who they're running it right now, and I'm sure Pedro Sauer is very happy too. But yeah, being under Pedro, I got the blue under him officially, because remember the whole purple belt not having a blue belt, I'm like, I have to have some sort of record of my blue belt. So I got my blue belt, so I had the record, and I can't remember when I got my purple, to be honest. Oh yeah, Brazil, actually, yeah, it was 2015. And then I got my brown 2000, man, I don't know.
Yeah, couldn't have been 2015. It had to have been 2000.
Yeah,
I think when I met you,
maybe it was 2013 that I got my purple over there.
Yeah.
I went to Brazil multiple times.
Because when I met you, you were a purple belt.
But that's the thing, that I was that fake purple belt. You know,
Oh,
I
you're
got my
saying you
purple
got your
belt right
real
away.
purple belt.
I
Okay.
got my purple belt under V Pro K, I think a year and a half into my martial arts endeavor, into my martial arts journey. And it was just his system. It was
Dang,
not,
so
you
I
know.
was getting conned the whole time.
Yeah, it pretty much. And I'm glad you stuck through, bro. No, but I don't know. I was just doing whatever I knew at the moment. And I remember, because it's like, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but with FIU in the beginning, one of the biggest challenges right away was that there was this guy. So I remember when I started the club, I wanted to join a jiu-jitsu club. I just was, for shits and giggles, seeing if there's a jiu-jitsu club. And there wasn't. There was other martial arts. There was a mixed martial arts club. And I was like, no, I want to do just jiu-jitsu. And they're like, oh, well, if you want, you can open one. I opened it. And then, man, that caused beef. That caused beef. People did not want me doing it. And some people did their little research on me somehow. How the hell you did that? I still up to this day don't know. But they immediately attacked it. Like, how the hell do you get your purple belt in a year and a half? And it's just like, I don't know. But I'm going to continue doing this. I'm not closing the club. And I was scared because it was like a high-level jiu-jitsu guy. I wasn't scared, but it's like, damn, am I joining college just to get beat up right away? But it was just like, no, you're not. Ismail was a big part of me not stopping that. But it was crazy. Like, in retrospect, looking back at it, if I saw it today that somebody was starting a jiu-jitsu club a year and a half in claiming to be a purple belt, I'd be like, what? Like, it's so crazy how everything works. But yeah, that was one of the trials, I guess, in the beginning. So yeah, you did meet me as a purple belt. But I was probably an actual blue belt, if anything. I remember coming back from Brazil after like one of them that somebody told me like I wasn't good, pretty much straight to my face. Made me realize, okay, it's either that I continue doing this trajectory of like doing jiu-jitsu thinking I'm good and not really being good, or I go back to the drawing board, figure it out, and get good. And
well, either way, I'll say I was in the other club first. And then I came to your club, and even as a fake purple belt, your instruction was definitely better than, or I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the instruction from the other club, and just the other club in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaks for itself.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I rocked that purple belt for a long time. I remember losing a lot in competition and just convincing myself that, man, how hard it is to make it on the podium. Like, it's not a realistic expectation necessarily all the time. It's just like you got to work your way towards that. But that wasn't really the case. It was just kind of just I was going in, losing, wondering what's going on. I'm pretty sure some people were like, how's this kid a purple belt? But I remember one of my best years was 2017. And it was purplish, brownish. Yeah, that's right. I think I got my brown 2017. No? Whatever. I don't know, maybe I got my black belt 2017. No.
Yeah, we need to do a timeline.
Yeah. I think I got my black belt 2019. But whatever. So 2017, I remember I competed every single month, at least like once, but a lot of them was twice, sometimes 3. And I won a lot of those tournaments. So it was then when I started really feeling myself like, hey, this is, I'm finally caught up, kind of like now I just got to keep moving forward. But yeah, I think we covered a lot. 53 minutes is good. It's crazy because it feels a little bit longer that we've been talking.
Yeah.
But, to conclude it, at the end of it, I'm going to be doing a lot of talk. It's funny that we're doing this today, November 10th, and this month, we're planning to promote you to black belt, which is awesome. I'm not going to be doing too much talking about that. 'Cause I'll talk about it the day of, but it's a very unique situation. What is happening that day? I don't think we can replicate what we've done, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of situations where we have black belts, and it's going to be its own story. But this story is going to be unique, and it's really cool. And I've been part of promoting somebody like Matt Bako. He has a Mattix in Slovakia, actually.
Shout out to Matt.
Shout out to Matt, man. And he's turned that thing so big. It's huge over there. And we actually went there this year.
Yeah. It's an amazing trip.
We went there this year. It's such a crazy
Great
trip.
students.
It's amazing. I can't wait to see them and train with them.
Yeah.
But when he got his black belt, it was through pretty much Pedro's blessing, under me and Marcelo, who was a third degree, and under the association, it was a lot of confusion, but it had to be done that way. And Marcelo was also a big part of his beginning of his journey. But with you, it was like from beginning to end. And it's like the first like pure, I guess, I don't want to say Matt's not pure, but the first like pure black belt from beginning to end, where you started with me and you ended, at least until, not ended, but you reached black belt.
Never ended.
And it's a product of really Mattix, like at the end of the day. So I can't even say that Mattix has promoted me to black. You would be the first Mattix black belt. That's nuts. But I think that's cool. And I think there's honestly so suiting for the first episode to be that. I'm pretty sure you're going to be in a lot of these.
I plan on it.
But yeah, I definitely appreciate what we've developed, homie. It's pretty cool. And then we'll go from there. I hope you guys enjoy this. We really don't have an idea of exactly what we're going to be doing with this podcast, but of course it's going to be jiu-jitsu related. I would love to have conversations with people. If I learn how to interview people, I love to do that too. I love to have conversations with people who are very maybe competitors or business owners that are just insightful and good to listen to. Yeah. Sometimes we'll just have conversations, honestly, I think about business, because I think networking is a huge part of jiu-jitsu. You meet so many people from different walks of life, so seeing kind of what they do and then maybe how jiu-jitsu has impacted that. There's so many things, and there will even be like talks about technique. There will definitely be instructional videos, but I don't know if that'll be part of the podcast. But it's just going to be just an extra resource for people who do jiu-jitsu here and whoever wants to listen to it, to kind of listen to. So I hope you enjoy it. I think we're probably going to call it, I don't want to say what we're going to call it because I don't know yet. But I think one of the, I'm not going to say it. Yeah, but it is going to have a name.
I don't even know what it is yet.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I would just say this. It might be this, but Mattix, since Mattix is Mat Addicts, it will probably call the Mat Addicts Podcast. So it'll just be like, if anybody can put that together and be like, oh, Mat Addicts, Mattix.
But put it together. We already explained.
Yeah.
Man, you shouldn't have said nothing.
Yeah, but maybe they won't watch the first episode.
Maybe. Yeah. Later on, when we're famous and they're gonna be like, I wonder where that name came from.
Yeah. You're like, oh. All right. Thank you guys. We will be talking to you later.